Hey there! Welcome to today's journey into mindfulness. Ever felt like your life is a backpack that's just too heavy to carry? Like you're climbing a mountain with weights that aren't even necessary? Today, we're diving into something that could completely transform your relationships and bring genuine peace to your life: the art of letting go. Think about it for a second. What would your life look like if you could release the unnecessary burdens you've been carrying? What relationships might heal if you mastered this skill? Let's explore what the ancient wisdom traditions call Upekkhā, the practice of equanimity and letting go. And trust me, this isn't just about good vibes. This is practical psychology that can revolutionize your daily existence. Ready to lighten your load? Let's begin. When we examine the heaviest things we carry, we often discover they're items we've willingly packed ourselves: beliefs, expectations, and attachments that weigh us down unnecessarily. According to the wisdom traditions, if we want peace and happiness, and if we want to bring peace and happiness to others, we must develop a quality called Upekkhā, or letting go. Here's a question for you. What are you currently holding onto that might be draining your energy? Take a moment to reflect on this. Life isn't just about constantly accumulating, collecting, producing, possessing, or pulling things toward ourselves. Sometimes we need to practice letting go, reducing, eliminating, or at least temporarily stopping our habit of clinging to things and ideas. Think about the things we produce, possess, or maintain. Some aren't truly necessary. Others might be necessary but aren't appropriate for our current health or energy levels. Each of us needs to give ourselves an opportunity to sit down and reflect. What should I let go of? From material comforts to emotional attachments like feelings, ego, or arrogance. These things might be depleting your energy and reducing your quality of life. Recently, have you noticed yourself creating some very negative energies? It seems like you might be forming some not-so-lovely habits inside. Let me ask you this. If you recognize this state and want to stop producing these unfriendly energies, to change yourself, but don't have enough strength, what then? With the energy you create each day, you might have just enough to solve certain problems, at minimum, your work. But when so many things require your energy to nurture, help, resolve, and untangle, especially in emotional relationships, you may not have enough strength. Consider this deeply. When your energy is depleted, you become unable to maintain the qualities that make you your best self. You become irritable, demanding, and critical. The very relationships you cherish become sources of conflict rather than comfort. I've noticed that many people try to push through this depletion, believing that sheer willpower can overcome energy deficits. But it's like trying to drive a car with an empty gas tank. No amount of determination will make the engine run. When we operate from this depleted state, we often find ourselves acting in ways that contradict our values and intentions. Think about your own experience. Have you ever snapped at someone you love deeply, simply because you had nothing left to give in that moment? Or perhaps you found yourself staring blankly when someone shared exciting news, unable to summon genuine enthusiasm despite truly caring about their happiness. These moments aren't failures of character. They're signals that your energy system needs attention. This is why it's so important to accurately assess your true condition. Often, we overestimate our capacity, thinking we can handle much more than we actually can. But in reality, every project we take on, every commitment we make, gradually chips away at our energy reserves until we're running on empty. Take a few mindful moments to return to yourself. Look honestly at your state of being. What essential values have you neglected while chasing after less important goals? What aspects of your inner life have you abandoned? This is the first essence of letting go, recognizing when you need to release unnecessary commitments to maintain your stability and harmony in life. As we lighten our own load by releasing unnecessary commitments, we must also consider how our expectations become burdens for those we love. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do is lower our demands. Have you ever pushed someone beyond their limits with your expectations, even when you thought you were doing it for their own good? In emotional relationships, we must have an awareness that allows us to see when our loved ones lack the strength to meet our demands, even our so-called reasonable demands. Take parents and children, for example. You might want your child to excel academically while also mastering piano or martial arts, but your child might already be overwhelmed with school. Mom, I can't take it anymore. Dad, I don't have the strength to become the perfect person you want me to be. If your child knew how to express this, they would say exactly that. But sadly, many children don't know how to communicate this. They just cry, get angry, or say no without being able to explain why, without knowing how to solve the problem in a way parents can understand. Those of us who claim to love someone have a responsibility to understand. Can the object of our affection bear the weight of our reasonable demands? If we see they're overwhelmed, we must have the courage to let go of those demands without fear. The truth is, our fear often drives our expectations. We've experienced storms in our lives, ups and downs that have left scars, so we try to protect our loved ones by controlling their paths with our expectations. But here's where we need wisdom. Your loved ones are not you. Their journeys must be their own. Sometimes they have more resilience than you imagine and can weather storms even more difficult than yours. Sometimes they need those very storms to develop strength and endurance. Sometimes we use love as an excuse to charge straight into someone's life and wreak havoc. We might believe we're acting out of care, but in reality, we're acting out of fear. Fear that comes from our own unhealed wounds and past experiences. This fear makes us hold too tightly, demand too much, and ultimately suffocate those we claim to love. When we push people beyond their limits, we don't show love, we show our own insecurity. This is the second essence of letting go, releasing excessive expectations and demands of others, especially when they're already struggling. While releasing our expectations of others lightens their load, there's something even more powerful we can offer. The gift of forgiveness and acceptance that creates space for genuine transformation. Let me hit you with this truth bomb. In an emotional relationship, if you don't know how to forgive, accept, and let go, you absolutely cannot love someone for the long haul. When our energy is full and our heart is large, letting go of the mistakes and weaknesses of those we love isn't too difficult. But when our energy is depleted and we're exhausted, this becomes nearly impossible. Think about it. You're not always living in mindfulness either. You likely live somewhat unconsciously, lacking self-control, and have spilled toxic energy everywhere. The only difference? Sometimes others notice, sometimes they don't, or perhaps what you've done hasn't reached the level of harm yet. When you realize this, when you truly remember this, you'll be able to accept the weaknesses of those you love. Accepting doesn't mean gritting your teeth and enduring, allowing the other person to do whatever they want. Acceptance means you don't react, you don't want to avoid or escape, you don't stand there demanding the other person change for you. Instead, you harmonize with it, joining forces to help that person change. These are two completely different attitudes. Got to ask, how many relationships have you damaged because you couldn't release your judgment of someone's mistakes? You need to treat your biases like old software that needs updating. You have to pull back your prejudices and let go of inaccurate thoughts about your loved ones to truly see them. Only then can you accept the totality of their wonderful personhood. What we often miss is that acceptance creates the very conditions for change. When someone feels judged, they become defensive. They dig in their heels and resist transformation. But when they feel accepted, truly seen and valued despite their flaws, they find the courage to grow. Imagine a plant struggling to thrive in poor soil. You could stand over it, demanding it grow taller, bloom more vibrantly, or produce more fruit. But your demands won't change the fundamental conditions preventing its growth. Only by first accepting its current state and understanding its needs can you create the environment where transformation becomes possible. This is exactly how human relationships work. Our judgments create a toxic environment that stifles growth, while our acceptance creates fertile ground where change can take root organically. The paradox is beautiful. When we stop demanding change is precisely when authentic transformation becomes possible. But this requires us to distinguish between acceptance and resignation. Acceptance isn't passive. It's an active stance that says, I see you clearly, without distortion, and I choose to remain engaged with the full reality of who you are. Resignation, by contrast, comes from defeat and disengagement. True acceptance energizes both parties, while resignation depletes everyone involved. When you look at someone through the lens of old judgments and past hurts, you miss who they truly are in this moment. You fail to witness their growth, their efforts, their small victories. You see only what you expect to see. This is particularly damaging when we carry wounds from previous relationships into new ones. If your heart is filled with unhealed injuries, you'll inevitably project those old pains onto your current relationship, seeing threats where none exist and missing opportunities for deeper connection. Before seeking new love, many of us need to heal our own hearts first. Only then can we approach someone with the openness and clarity needed for authentic connection. As long as you believe someone close to you is completely bad and worthless, you obviously cannot continue connecting with and loving them. If there's nothing good you can see in them, how can you live together and love each other? This is the third essence of letting go. Releasing judgment about others' weaknesses, mistakes, and failures so they have the opportunity to change, and so you can see their remaining value. When we learn to see people clearly, without the distortion of judgment, we discover another layer of attachment that blocks true connection, the mental scoreboard where we tally what we've given versus what we've received. Here's something we all need to hear. When you give something to someone, you've already received by being able to give. Many of us keep a mental scoreboard. Look at everything I've done for you. But true giving isn't about keeping score. Let me share a story. Once during a hiking trip, I warned participants that their backpacks should only weigh 1/3 of their body weight. For a 60-kilo person, that's 20 kilos maximum, including tent, sleeping bag, water, food, first aid supplies, warm clothing, etc. But many didn't follow this rule. They secretly packed extra items, especially food. When we started hiking, I checked their backpacks, and though they seemed too heavy, everyone insisted, "No, it's exactly 20 kg, I promise." The results became clear after just a few miles when they started getting exhausted, especially climbing steep slopes. After half a day, they were drained. When they opened their packs, wow, so much food. They had been afraid of not having enough, afraid of lacking the experience to cope. Those who'd hiked before knew what just enough meant. Enough to travel a long distance in challenging terrain, not enough to live in luxury. So they started a campaign to eat as much as possible. Suddenly, those who had initially boasted about their preparation were begging others, "Please, eat some of my food." The truth is, when someone accepts something from you, you should be thanking them, not just expecting gratitude from them. Children don't just thank parents. Parents should thank children too, because without children, those people wouldn't be called parents and wouldn't fulfill the role of parenthood or experience the sweet emotions of loving their bundle of joy. Many couples cannot have children. Having a child is a blessing in life. The difficulties and consequences that follow are natural. So why do parents always complain, "I've been taking care of you since you were in the womb"? Why is raising you so difficult? Why do children always make parents suffer? Whenever children make mistakes or cause problems, and consider this profound question, what happens when you can no longer give, when illness, distance, or other circumstances prevent you from maintaining your role as the provider? If your entire relationship is built on your identity as the giver and their identity as the receiver, what remains when those roles can no longer be sustained? I've witnessed many relationships collapse under precisely this scenario. A parent who built their entire identity around providing financially for their children feels utterly lost when retirement comes. A partner who dedicated themselves to caring for their spouse's every need becomes invisible when that spouse becomes self-sufficient or when they themselves become ill. These painful transitions reveal the hidden flaw in relationships built on fixed roles rather than mutual recognition. There's also something deeply presumptuous about positioning ourselves as the perpetual giver. It subtly implies that we have more to offer than the other person, that we are somehow fuller, more complete, more capable. This hierarchical view of relationship blocks us from receiving the unique gifts that others want to share with us. Sometimes our insistence on giving actually robs others of the joy and dignity that comes from giving to us. This is why balance in relationships is so vital. When we insist on always being the giver, we create an unhealthy dynamic where our own worth becomes tied to what we provide rather than who we are. And we reduce the other person to a mere recipient, denying them the dignity of contributing in their own way. Why don't we remember what happiness our children bring us? How many people cannot have children, yet we only complain? Here's a question worth pondering. What if tomorrow you couldn't give anything to those you love? Would you still hold your scorekeeping against them? This is the fourth essence of letting go. Releasing attachment to what you've contributed or sacrificed for your loved ones so you can continue to respect and appreciate them. Once we've released our scorekeeping tendencies, we face perhaps the most challenging aspect of letting go, surrendering our need to control the lives and choices of those we claim to love. Be honest with yourself. Are you suffocating those you claim to love? One of the most important aspects of letting go is releasing your grip on others. Even if you've somehow lured them into your circle, even if they've submitted themselves to you, there will come a time when they'll demand freedom, fighting in every way, or they'll suffer painfully over their loss of autonomy. If you're a conscientious person with ethics and understanding, if you truly want to love those close to you with authentic value, you must consider this. Are your loved ones free? Are they at ease and comfortable living with you, or having an emotional relationship with you? There's a beautiful song lyric that says, "I hold you close to me, yet I set you free." I want to hold you tight in this moment because, in the past, I've abandoned you. I've been chasing this and that, leaving you lonely and isolated. Parents might think they're providing everything for their child while actually abandoning them, letting them grow up in toxic environments. In this moment, I realize that, so I want to hold you tight, meaning to be present again, to connect deeply again, but not to squeeze you until you can't breathe. I set you free means allowing you to be yourself. You're a man. I'm a woman. You have your needs. I have mine. Parents are the previous generation. Children are the next. I have perspectives and recognitions and needs that aren't completely like the next generation's. So parents must respect their children's freedom, not control them. We need to practice reducing our control over others and interference in their lives. Sometimes we use love as an excuse to charge straight into someone's life and wreak havoc. Consider this. Love without freedom is not love at all. It's possession. When we truly love someone, we want them to flourish as themselves, not as versions of ourselves or projections of our desires. This is the fifth essence of letting go. Releasing the habit of possession and control, so your loved ones can feel relaxed, at ease, and free. The final frontier of letting go transcends all others, embracing the impermanence of life itself, which paradoxically allows us to love more deeply in each precious moment we have together. Here's a powerful perspective shift. What if you approached each interaction as if it might be your last? In a beautiful song, there's a lyric, "Look at the face of your beloved one last time in life." If we always thought that meeting our loved ones in this moment might be the last time, we would show them the best version of ourselves. We would certainly give them the purest energy we could offer instead of continuing to produce negative energy, continuing to make each other suffer, continuing to demand things from each other. You might ask, how can we be sure this is the last time? Well, we often don't know for certain. We assume that person will be with us for hundreds more years, so we continue to make them suffer. But if we were conscious that separations and partings can occur at any moment, we certainly wouldn't treat each other this way. Let me challenge you with this thought. The sea of life is full of storms already pushing us around. In 100 years, where will you be and where will I be? We're all sailors on a ship crossing a vast ocean with many storms. Instead of motivating each other, Joining together to form a solid mass to help our ship overcome the big waves, we climb on top of each other, stepping on each other until our loved ones are exhausted, and ultimately, the ship capsizes. This is where enlightenment happens. Whatever happens to those we love happens to us too. When we torment our loved ones, we're tormenting ourselves. And here's a final reflection to consider. When we love someone deeply, they become part of us. Their presence exists within our very being, in our cells, our thoughts, our breath. Even when physically separated, they remain within us, influencing who we are and how we live. This understanding creates a profound shift in how we relate to loved ones. We realize that respecting their autonomy doesn't diminish our connection, it strengthens it. We understand that our presence in their lives continues even when we're not controlling or directing them. True filial piety, or respect for parents, for example, isn't just about staying physically close to them throughout life. It manifests in living ethically, finding genuine happiness, and treating others with compassion. In this way, we honor our parents' influence even as we forge our own path. This is the sixth essence of letting go, embracing impermanence and using that awareness to live fully in each moment with those we care about. Let's wrap this up with a final reflection. True love means setting each other free. It means recognizing our partners, our children, our parents, and our friends as complete individuals with their own paths and needs. It means supporting each other's growth without suffocation. So I ask you one last time, what will you let go of today? What burden will you set down? What judgment will you release? What expectation will you surrender? Remember, letting go isn't about not caring. It's about caring so deeply that you're willing to release your grip to allow true connection. The practice of letting go, Upekkhā, isn't easy. It requires consistent mindfulness, courage, and wisdom. But the freedom it brings to both yourself and those you love is immeasurable. Thank you for joining me on this journey today. If this resonated with you, please like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe for more insights on mindful living. Until next time, remember, hold close, yet set free.